Shot Evans. You know how we start every podcast off. What I'm most grateful for, like always, it never gets old, it never gets tired. I'm grateful for my family, friends. I'm grateful for God, for everything that we have in our life. Specifically, since I always come to y'all on Mondays, I have a beautiful weekend. I'm grateful that everybody I love made it through the crazy storms that we had here. I was in New York this weekend and seemed like hail was coming down like crazy. Water was coming all over. There were like flash flood warnings. It looked like lightning hit a tree outside of my house. I pulled up in the driveway and it just this whole strip looks like it just got torched. I'm grateful that everybody was healthy. I'm grateful that we had a good trip to New York. My fighter lost the decision, but it was still a great trip. He learned a lot. He really improved from his last fight, so that was a really good sign for things coming up in the future. And I'm grateful to have such an amazing guest with us. We got Dr. Leslie with us. What are you most grateful for, Dr. Leslie?
Oh, I was hoping you would ask. I too had a great weekend. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for my family, my amazing daughter, especially. She's going for a black belt next week. So I'm praying for that. I'm thankful for the gifts that God has given me and my family and my daughter in particular. I'm very grateful for you, Mark, for having the type of podcast and setup to share information with large groups of people so that they can become more informed and empower themselves to do whatever it is that they would like to do. I'm grateful for the technology that we use here at my center. I'm grateful for the man who developed it. It's helped so many children in so many ways that I'm sure we'll get into on this show, and I'm really excited to share it. So I'm very grateful for my excitement and my passion too.
Oh, that's dope. Well, to get things started, can you explain to everybody what it is that you do?
Yes, I would love to. The easiest way to start that explanation is just give you a little bit of my background. So, I'm a dentist, and I was a dentist for nearly 30 years, and I saw all the significant health issues that were associated with the jaw and the airway not growing properly, and what that looks like in adults when they have sleep apnea, the medical conditions it leads to. And I started doing a deep dive into where these problems come from and why I was seeing such a huge increase in the medical histories of my patients of these medical issues, sleep issues, anxiety issues, depression issues, suicidal thoughts. These things were coming up a lot and a lot more than they were at the beginning of my career. So I went down the rabbit hole and I started studying it, and I found out that human beings, our jaws and our airways are shrinking. It's because we're not growing and developing the way God designed us to grow and develop. Our genetic blueprint is not, it hasn't changed, but our environment has. And so it's a maladaptation process, and it's making us more sick over time. And I decided to get involved more into that study. I trained myself as an oral facial myologist and a buteyko breathing instructor. And I retired out of dentistry a few years ago, and I dedicated the rest of my career to this system of developing the facial muscles so that children's jaws and airways can grow properly, and they can live to their full potential the way they were intended to. And that's what I do. In a nutshell. It's a long way
Just
about it.
that's it. That's all I do. I just help kids become healthier. I like that.
Thanks.
Um that's dope. So one thing that just automatically stuck out to me was when you said we aren't living up to our fullest potential. Now, what is one, what do you mean by that? And two, what's keeping us from doing that?
So our bodies are genetically designed. I mean, the program is perfect. Okay. The DNA, the structure, when it all is surrounded by the right environment, it grows the way it's supposed to. But and then we can reach our full physical and our mental potential. But when the environment isn't caressing what our body was designed for, then it suffers, and we can't reach that full genetic potential, whatever that looks like for that individual. And every individual is different. Every individual has their own spark, their own gifts, their own talents. And unfortunately, if we're not growing and developing properly, both mentally and physically, we can't, sometimes we can't even find out what those are.
Mm.
And it starts in childhood.
So what is what is the biggest drawback and what is keeping us from reaching that potential? Or if someone's listening, if parents are listening right now, what can what are some of the things that as parents, I imagine, because the kids may not know how to do this automatically. What are some of the things that parents or guardians are doing that are keeping their kids from reaching that potential?
Yeah, it's nothing that they themselves are doing. What's happening is the child isn't growing and developing properly because they're not breathing properly, or they have poor muscle habits, or poor muscle function, or poor oral habits like sucking their thumb or being on the pacifier too long. It's changing the growth and direction and the trajectory
Mhm.
of their facial environment, which is their breathing environment too. And they're not getting the full breath. They're not oxygenating, they're not using oxygen to the full potential, and, those children, when they're growing and developing, really need it because they're developing that prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's designed for linear and rational thinking and behavior, and, that's suffering. And every time that that's not being developed, the old-fashioned part of the brain or the animalistic part of the brain is being strengthened, and they're developing more of those connections. So they're developing more reactionary and animalistic, so to speak, processes, and they grow up in that with that neural environment, and it's very hard to change uh, the more connections that are made, and it takes a lot more. It's much easier to change that
Mhm.
early on in a child's life by just getting them to breathe better. Number one.
That's that's insane. The last few episodes that aren't even out yet, and mm, my l and the one where I just did with with Alison Armstrong, um, have just come out, and a lot of it's been talking about the frontal cortex and talking about, specifically men, because I understand there's a difference between men and women, and I'm not a woman, so I'm not gonna speak on women. So, um, men men being very afraid of that monster side, or any man that's lived through some kind of trauma or PTSD of any kind, and being stuck in that part of their brain, and then how researchers talk about it's from that age of 2 to 7, 2 to 8,
Mhm.
where they really see where basically your core functioning is there, and then everything you add on to it is just basically filters to help you sort of keep from getting to that animalistic side. And from what I'm hearing, if I'm understanding it right, is that you're saying that it may not even come from just trauma.
Right.
um it could come from, as you said, the pacifier too long, or sucking the thumb too long, which then it makes me think, if they're doing these things and not breathing properly, and not getting the enough air to come in to help their brain fully function to understand this, then is it safe to say that even if they don't have a, a quote unquote terrible childhood, that anything might little things might trigger them and cause some major trauma and anxiety issues? Is that, if I'm understanding that right?
It could. It could, absolutely. You're 100% on point, and it really comes down to what the brain understands.
Mm,
And when a child isn't breathing properly, if they're breathing too fast, if they're heavy chest breathing, if they're breathing through their mouth, the brain doesn't know that that's just a habit that the child is in, or a temporary solution to allergies or chronic congestion. You know, the brain interprets that as this child's body is in danger. it turns on the fight or flight response, and that child, which is only meant for, a good 30 to 60 seconds to get yourself out of danger, but that child's living in that fight or flight response and growing and developing in that fight or flight response. And so, yes, there could be no trauma, nothing to be afraid of, but the child could be developing that traumatic emotion and anxiety and depression at a very early age because they're not breathing properly.
That's wow. That's why isn't this being talked about more often? Until you literally reached out, I didn't know this was a thing with kids. Like I
Mhm.
know it as I know it as an athlete. I played sports probably since I was 6 or 7, so it was always something that you had to learn how to do is breathe, and you don't wanna breathe through your mouth because then you're not able to catch your breath again, and so you learn how to breathe and you get better at it, and as a fighter, it's something that you desperately need. Um, so I understood that and understood to teach my kids that because it's something we learn as athletes, but it's n I've never seen anyone really talk about it as far as kids. Again, even any of the breathing experts that I've seen talk about it, it was mostly with adults.
Mhm.
So why isn't this a thing, I guess, for
It's a
kids?
great question. I hope to make it a thing. I think that every parent needs to know about it. I met with several parents today alone in regards to consultations for their children. Two of the moms broke down in tears because they didn't think that there was an answer. They thought their child had, some sort of hyperactivity disorder or issue. And really, it comes down to their kids are sleeping with their mouth open. They're waking up 4 to 6 times a night. They have fragmented sleep. They're exhausted. And, an adult who's exhausted has problems, let alone a poor little child that doesn't know how to handle it. And then the brain is connecting so fast, it's just reconnecting in all the wrong ways. And it just makes the child more anxious. Um, it's a very emotional subject for parents, and they're looking for answers. They really are. They're asking their pediatricians. The pediatricians don't know the answers because no one's looking into it or studying it. And just like how, you had a jaw-dropping experience, so did I, and that's what made me look into it more. And I started reading all the science and all the studies that are there to support it. And I took all those studies and I put it into this first book. It's about 75 different studies. There's over 500 pages, and it has everything from how to screen for these issues to the effects that if we don't catch it early, how children that have these sleep related breathing disorders are 40 to 100 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD because fatigue in children actually mimics or mirrors the symptoms of ADHD. So children are being told, parents are being told that there's something wrong with them. The parent thinks there's something wrong with their child. They have some sort of ADHD issue, but really the child's just exhausted. And those avenues should be explored first before any child is put on any sort of medication or anything like that. In my opinion, and the science says that too.
Wow. So now, let's say, mm, at what point can I'm sorry, let me rephrase this in my head. Is there is there a cutoff time where somebody can learn these exercises? I understand there's a cutoff time and where they can probably help their uh frontal cortex. I understand that aspect of it, but just like you can add I like to call them like new programs so you don't get to the animalistic side. So like before you get completely triggered and a landmine goes off, you have these programs running. Are there exercises that can also help even as an adult?
Oh, for sure. That's
Mm,
what the Buteyko breathing method promotes. Yeah. Light breathing awareness, increasing your tolerance to CO2 so that you can utilize oxygen better. Those two things right there can occur in so many different breathing exercises that
mm,
helps to calm and focus the brain and the body and the individual. Plus all the health benefits, not just the mental health benefits, but all the physical benefits of lowering the blood pressure, getting good, better. As an athlete, Mark, how important that is.
mhm.
And I think that It certainly, can be done as an adult, and it can really help adults where we're working with children, and I do work with adults, and some of them are athletes as well. But where we're seeing it with children is it's so the children are so easy to influence. They're so young and moldable, and that craniofacial, the skull, the face, it's so easily developed when you get in at an early age. So most of the kids we're treating are 3 years old to 5 years old because 60% of a child's face is done growing by the age of 6. So, if we get in there between 3 and 6, I mean, we have huge positive effects and we can completely reverse things. So, but we do treat children that are older, and those craniofacial structures are still flexible.
Mhm.
And then the breathing techniques on top of the myofunctional therapy, those two things combined are like a secret weapon almost.
Yeah.
It's just it nails it every time.
What I it's funny, uh, I wanna take you and Wim Hof and just have you 2 sit in a room and speak to people because I don't know if you heard of Wim Hof, so he's like he's called the breathing guru, and he's the
Mhm.
Iceman because he basically started jumping into frozen lakes and
Oh,
teaching himself how to breathe, and then now he helps so many other people, and, like, my one of my assistant coaches who runs his own Brazilian jiu-jitsu program, he swears by him because he uses those breathing techniques as well, and, um, it's just I've never seen him talk about it with kids, and so it's like, "Oh, man, this is my brain is racing now."
yeah, I would love to talk to him. Yeah.
And
Well, now the thing is too, Mark, is, if the jaw and the airway don't grow properly though, those breathing techniques, it's harder for those to be effective because there's not enough room for the air to move. So if the jaw is too small, if it's shrunken down because it didn't grow to the size that it should, and the teeth are crooked, the container's too small, the tongue falls to the back of the throat, now we have obstructive sleep apnea. Okay. And, if that's going on, if a child grows up into an adult who can breathe well during the day, but is suffering with breathing issues at night, and, then that's a problem too.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so I would love to talk to him. We could probably talk. I'm a little bit of a nerd, so it might, it might go on for hours.
So
You might be sorry.
when you talk about the jawline or you talk about the structure, when you see somebody with a defined jaw, or I try to relate things back to fighters,
Mhm.
I can always tell who can take probably a few more punches because of the jawline, the size of the head. Like, I got a Rottweiler size head, so I know, and I have sustained a lot of punches. I'm probably getting not gonna get knocked out that way, and so, but we all have a shelf life. But is that sort of what you're talking about, that defined jawline, that really strong jawline, and that has something to do with breathing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Ah,
Because there's 3 parts of your breathing process. There's your nasal cavity,
mhm,
the, oral pharyngeal space, which is right behind your mouth, and then, of course, the thing that everybody thinks about, your lungs, you
mhm,
know? And, what they're doing in modern, times today is they're trying to expand or grow that upper part of the airway with orthodontics and palatal expansion, and that's great because it does open up that part of the airway, but we need to grow this part of the airway too, and we need to get that jaw growing, up, forward, and out instead of down and back into the airway, where our bodies become our own breathing obstructions. And we don't have as much opportunity, at least as much natural opportunity today as we did, say, 10,000 years ago. We were hunting and gathering our food and living outside, and we had to work hard. Yeah, I mean, we had to be quiet when we slept, or else we'd be eaten by an animal. I mean, there was no room for snoring back then. So our bodies are adapting to this environment change that we're living in today because our bodies weren't designed to live the way that we're living.
yeah,
So we have to go to the gym, we have to exercise, and the same holds true for our mouth. We have to exercise those muscles. And if the muscles are functioning the way that they should, the muscles tell the bones what to do.
mhm,
And as an athlete, if your muscles are strong and you get hit, there's less chance you're going to break a bone, right? Well, this is the same thing. So if the muscles are functioning properly and they grow the bone properly, then the jaw and the airway grows in the direction that it's supposed to. But children, are eating. I love Chick-fil-A. Don't get me wrong. They're eating, soft chicken nuggets and applesauce and smoothies and yogurt and tubes of food. It's just not, it's not conducive to the natural exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so man, this is another case that we live in almost too good of circumstances, and our bodies are paying a price for it because if we don't push ourselves if we don't push ourselves a little bit harder, then we lose. We're just gonna continue to lose things that are locked in our body already, as you said it, like in our DNA and in our bone structure. That's that's mind blowing to me. I never thought about breathing this way. So then, what what are some things that we can do for kids? And then also, what are some things we could do as an adult? Because when you mentioned someone sleeping with their mouth open, I instantly thought, well, should we just tape their mouth closed? Like it just there's tape out there for that. So, what are some of the things that you would recommend that we do for our kids and for adults?
Yeah, so for kids, I'm going to say the first thing that we need to do as parents of children and having that responsibility is to educate ourselves and become aware of what it is that we're supposed to be looking for as parents.
Mhm.
I think also, in addition to educating ourselves, it takes a village, Mark. So I think, the more and more parents who are educating themselves and pushing for the right answers can educate other healthcare providers and practitioners so that these healthcare providers know what they should be looking for too. And the things that adults, parents should be looking for in their children is that open mouth posture, even just a little bit, where the mouth hangs open. Breathing through the mouth day or night or both, snoring even just a little bit, heavy chest breathing. A small child that has anxiety already at the age of 3 or 4 is not natural.
Yeah.
It's because, yeah, it's the brain isn't functioning properly. I've seen little children come in. A little boy came in, he was 4 years old, and he drew me a picture of everything he's afraid of. And in his picture, that's what he drew me. At the age of 4, I wanted to cry. I really wanted to cry because how's that going to go for him over the next, 30 years of his life? It's not good. Other things, night terrors, bedwetting, those are associated with poor breathing habits while a child is asleep and even awake, can contribute to that as well. Picky eating, speech issues, chronic ear infections, um, ear tubes, enlarged tonsils and adenoids. We've had, children avoid tonsillectomies, so surgery, advanced surgeries, just by changing how they breathe and getting their jaws to grow in the right way. Those are things that parents should be looking for.
Mhm.
Even just a little bit of crooked teeth. That's another one that's so common. Every kid's getting palatal expanders and braces. Why are the teeth crowded in the mouth? It's because the mouth is too small. If you look at skulls from 10,000 years ago, Mark, nobody needed braces back then. They had Hollywood smiles even though there was no TV. It's because they were growing the way that they were supposed to. So these are things that parents should look for and not settle for just surface answers from their healthcare practitioners. And then, what children can do is exercise, which is what we do here, which I can, talk about further if you want. But as far as adults goes, yeah, mouth taping is simple. We could just put some tape over our mouth. I even had once a dental patient tell me he puts duct tape over his mouth. I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. So, they do make other kinds of tape, and he says, and it's only when I'm drinking, that I snore and I breathe. I'm like, it's probably not safe. Let's not do that. So I guess what I would say is if someone is going to mouth tape, they need to understand and know the right ways of doing it before, they get involved with that. But mouth taping doesn't solve the whole problem. It closes the hole, but it doesn't strengthen the muscle function. So even adults can exercise their oral muscles to change their oral habits and where their tongue rests and where, because there's a lot to this, where their tongue is positioned and how their lips work, so that they can have a good night's sleep. So that's what I would suggest for adults.
How would you exercise? What are those exercises?
Yeah. So you can do traditional myofunctional exercises like lip pops and tongue clicks and all this stuff. It's time consuming and it's kind of hard. We use a patented oral myofunctional exerciser. It looks like this. It's from the Myofunctional Research Center. It exercises the tongue, so that you can see. You push this up with your tongue, so your tongue gets nice and strong. We do push-ups and planks for tongues. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, and, believe you me, when you do that, you feel it, just like you do if you were gonna do a full body push-up or plank. We exercise the lips so that the round circular muscle around the lips is firm and it can hold the lips closed, and we exercise those jaw muscles so that the muscles that hold the jaw to the skull, like you were saying, you have that pit bull head, so those muscles are nice and strong because when you're a child and you're developing those muscles, that helps to develop the jaw joint, and it makes the jaw joint strong and healthy too. And then there's airway exercises with this too to actually strengthen your airway. So this is like a little gym. I think your producer said you were coming from the gym today, probably training your athletes. This is like a little gym for your mouth. You bring the gym to your mouth, and that's what this does. And I know it works because I use it on these children all the time. I've used it on adults. I've used it on myself, um, and it works.
And where can I will make sure that there's a link and all that stuff, but um where can people buy them?
Yeah, they can buy them through us or anybody who distributes those appliances. Yeah, so it is considered a medical device, so you have to get it through just, someone who's authorized to distribute it. You can't just buy it online, because there's the exercises should be supervised, at least to some extent. With children especially, we have a very structured regimen program for the children. For adults, it's much easier. And many of the adult parents on our program, as we're going through all these signs and symptoms, they have these aha moments and they say, well, that's what I do, or I grind my teeth, or I clench, or I wake up several times a night, or, and they say, can you help me? And then we say, yeah, we can get you on an exercise program. And we have some other oral appliances too, should they need it. It works great for athletes. I know that, I'm not very athletic myself. I'm more mentally athletic, I like to say, than I am physically athletic. But I know that there were a lot of athletes, and are a lot of athletes that are training with mouth tape because they want to exercise and have longer endurance and better and faster muscle recovery. Which, if they're breathing through their nose, those are the results that they get. So this would be like a way to come off of the mouth tape, that paired with the breathing exercises.
Yeah, I know when I was fighting, I used a training mask that restricted breathing pretty hardcore. And then um there was Boss Rutan, who's a former uh he's a Hall of Fame UFC fighter, came
Mhm.
out with a breathing device where you're doing breathing exercises and you just have this in your mouth and you're breathing out while you're bending down, and it's just forcing you to breathe harder and a different kind of airflow. And it sounds like it a almost everything sounds almost like what you have, but it's just touching on different aspects of it where it seems like you're really focused on the in as you mentioned, 3 different airways, if I'm correct. So, you're really focused on the jaw, the tongue, the nose, like, you're focused on it all. I love that. And since it's a medical device, that means insurance might be able to cover some of that or something. So, well, I
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I also understand how that game works, and,
Yeah.
regardless, that's very interesting to me, especially if it's something that, fighters can use. I wanna try it out myself, actually.
Mhm.
I'm gonna definitely have to get one of those. I'm very interested. Now, I'm thinking about all the teachers that would yell at me for making those noises going or chewing on a pen. Ha ha. Ha ha. I created strong jaws and a tongue that works and a breathing that works, and I didn't even know that biology was helping me out on that one
That's
because
right.
I
Natural instinct is something, isn't it?
so, yeah, it's like it paid off when I started fighting and with football and fighting, but I didn't even know that I was, helping my airway become better. This is insane. So, uh, what 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 made you dive into this aspect of it? Because there's a lot of dentists out there. I don't see them switching their careers up and going into something like this. So what what caused that switch?
Yeah, I had gotten to a point in dentistry, and you kind of brought it up, Mark. The insurance was just kind of running rampant in dentistry, and it was making it not so fun anymore.
Mm,
It was difficult, and a lot of dentists are having difficult times with that. The insurances are on the rise, and it's harder and harder to not work with insurances, nowadays than it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago, or up to 30 years ago when I started dentistry. And, I was still passionate about it, but I noticed I was losing it a little bit. I was losing that passion. I didn't feel like I was helping as much as I could, and it was really bothering me about the adult medical histories. It was depressing. As the patients would come in, I mean, it was one sick patient after another, one high anxiety, and then of course I had, my practice throughout COVID as well, and we were forced to be shut down, and dentists were not looked at as being part of the essential, which is crazy because we're the ones that, should have been utilized. That was just insane. And I started to think, and study and learn more. And I started to dive into why these patients were getting so sick. And what I realized is we had an epidemic. We had COVID, or the pandemic. We had this pandemic, COVID. But the real pandemic is that our jaws and airways are shrinking. We're not breathing. We're suffocating, and we're dying, and we're getting more sick as a species. And the more and more I went into that, and I looked at the anthropology and the science behind all this, the more nerdy, if I could get any more nerdy, I got more nerdy. And I made a call, and I said, I think I'm going to sell my practice, and I'm going to focus on these techniques to grow and develop, the airway. These techniques have been around for over 100 years, and these types of appliances that we use for orthopedic jaw growth,
mhm.
these have been around for 30 years. Um, this has been known about, but dentists are too preoccupied, with all the other dental stuff they're doing. I did cut time into my practice to use these types of appliances on kids, and I did. I saw remarkable
Mm,
changes, and that's helped me make that decision to break away from something that I did so long and something that was so comfortable, and financially rewarding as well. It was a leap of faith, and I had some God moments in there too.
yeah.
I was actually sitting in my daughter's orthodontist office, and um, this mother was talking to another mother and telling this other mother how her son needs jaw surgery to break his jaws and reposition them because his bite is wrong. It's called orthodontic surgery. It's a pretty advanced surgery,
Mhm.
and it's needed when things don't match up properly. And the other mother, and I had been toying about this because it's a scary move to leave something that you've done for so long. So I've been kind of toying with this and thinking about it and creating on it, but wasn't quite sure. And this other mother said, "Wait, before you do that surgery, you should look into myofunctional therapy." So my daughter was told she needed that surgery. We did myofunctional therapy, and she didn't need the surgery. And so I sat there, I was like, "Okay, I'll do it. I got it. I'll do it." You know? And, I actually, my story is I was a co-author in an anthology book, and that story is
Mm,
in there too. It's called Course Corrected. So, yeah, that was
oh,
that was a aha moment or a God moment for me.
that's I thank you for sharing that story. Thank you for sharing all that because you touched on a couple things that I really focus on with this podcast and focus on overall just when I'm speaking to people that it's important that we find our purpose and then be willing to keep the doors open to recognize that maybe our purpose isn't changing, but the way we go about um reaching our purpose might change. And it sounds like that was sort of happened. And that's really cool to hear. And then I really love the the moment where God's like, "Hey, I've been trying to deliver this message." Like, I don't we're this is this is the last time I'm delivering it in a nice way, so you better listen." And so it's like, it's it's crazy. That's that's so powerful right there. Because your purpose, I imagine your purpose when you became a dentist would to help people,
Mhm.
to do what you love and help people, and that never changed. The purpose is still there to help people. It's just the way you deliver it now, and it like listening to everything you're talking about, it now I'm starting to see connections where someone who's always sick, they look frail or
Mhm.
they don't look they rarely have a strong jawline. They rarely have a defined they rarely have just a big head. Like it's I hate to say it like that, but since I have a giant cranium, I'm like it is what it is. So, but those people that are always sick now, it makes a lot of sense. And I even think about my son. He's 15, and his teeth were crooked, and we knew came from like it didn't matter what we did. He we could not keep his thumb out of his like we tried everything. And it was weird because my my daughter has straight teeth, I have straight teeth, and it was like but eventually once he got more active with sports, those things started changing,
Mhm.
and he started like now he's 6'3", 240 pounds as a 15-year-old kid, and now that he's starting to get that jawline and he's got a big cranium, so it's like, "Yes, okay, cool, we're on the right track." And now I'm really we knew the crooked teeth came from probably him with his thumb in his mouth, but now that just connects everything, and so it's I don't understand why more athletes aren't looking athletes are always especially at a certain level, you're always looking for that edge, that little thing that isn't cheating, but it's different. And so I know fighters that use like I said, Wim Hof with breathing exercises or even diving to learn how to breathe differently. So this just seems like the next level of it, and especially if it increases the jaw, like a stronger jaw, because there's so many fighters. We do some insane things. We'll chew on things. We'll do weight training with like we'll put a rope in our mouth or something like that and tie it to a weight or something and do neck exercises and just grip down on it. We're kind of insane. So this seems like something really cool. Now if someone has uh I guess I don't hear them talk about kids having sleep apnea as much. That's a term I hear with adults, but I know kids that snore and
Mhm.
do those things. If someone has sleep apnea though, is this something that can reverse that even as they're an adult?
Depending on the causes. I mean, sleep apnea could be a combination of many things. It could be that the jaws are underdeveloped, the container that holds the tongue and supports the airway is too small, and it just didn't grow right. But then if you add poor diet, lack of
Mhm.
exercise, alcohol, on top of that, that can induce that as
Yeah.
well. So not all sleep apnea comes from underdeveloped jaws and airways, but a lot of it does. And children do suffer from obstructive sleep apnea. And that can either be in their nasal cavity or, behind their tongue or both. It
Mhm.
can be the tonsil. There's a lot of things. It usually starts off as just kind of like just primary snoring. They're just snoring either a little bit or a lot bit,
Mhm.
and then it kind of turns into like an upper respiratory type of resistance that they have, and then it kind of turns into sleep apnea. So children can have sleep apnea, and I think it's something like 7 to 8% of children truly have. Yeah, it's a lot, and
Man.
that's what's observed or diagnosed. Yeah,
Yeah.
7 to 8 or 12%, or I'd have to look up the research, but and it might even be more today, based on research today. But there's gosh, it's just oodles and oodles of people, adults that suffer from it, or just suffer from fragmented sleep, or not restful sleep. They might sleep,
Yeah.
8 hours, but they're not really fully.
Yeah.
recovering and recouping during that 8 hours. And, and like you had mentioned, my purpose, and I'm just doing it in a different way. And that's kind of how I felt when I left dentistry. I felt like I was helping people, but I knew I could start a lot earlier and I
Mhm.
could make a better and a bigger difference. And, I really truly believe, if we change the way a child grows and develops, this such an important part of the body. It's one of the in utero is an embryo. That's one of the first things to form. So that's telling us it's important. If we can just get in there and change that and set them up for a better life, that could change. I mean, I know it sounds kind of out there, but it could kind of change the world. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
when uh, I don't think it's just our country, but when I look at us as almost a full society, it's still mind-blowing that so many people are suffering from anxiety and depression and all these things, and it's like and there's there's so many ways to kinda deal with that, and the one thing we always focus on is, exercising, and it's one thing that you're focusing on.
Mhm,
I stress to my students, it's not like I have a gym full of fighters. I have lots of fighters, but I also have regular day people that just wanna train, and so that the chemicals that get released when you're training and when you're sweating and doing all these things, but to see that it runs so much deeper, I always tell people when they're in these moments when they're sparring or they're fighting or they're training and their brain locks up, I explained to him that, you're basically in a fight or flight response, and actually what you're doing is freezing right now because your brain is locked up. Well, the easiest way to hit Control Alt Delete is to breathe. Breathe through your nose and slowly let it out your mouth and control your breathing. And the two different types of breathing we focus on is, the deep breath where the shoulders rise up, and the other one where your shoulders don't move at all and you're getting it deeper in your diaphragm.
mhm,
And it sounds like one, I know that helps many adults. So now just taking that to kids and then helping them strengthen these muscles. Yeah, it would change the world
mhm,
across the board, because what 3 or 4-year-olds should have to deal with anxiety? I can't even imagine. Like, I had a very, interesting childhood is the way I try to put it, and, I didn't ex like, some of these issues didn't even smack me in the head until much later in my life when I was actually able to be aware of certain things, and it's being a 4-year-old suffering from anxiety, I that's tragic and mind-blowing, and to know that it's just a device can help so much with them sleeping, and then, of course, if they get enough sleep, now they can process
mhm,
differently, and if they can process differently, all of a sudden, they might wanna be more active
mhm,
and not wanna stay inside so much, and it's like, you just follow those breadcrumbs all the way down the road, and it's like, "Whoa, that changes a person's life in 20 years."
mhm.
You're
Absolutely.
doing really powerful work. Now, are
Thank you.
there a lot of people doing this,
Mm.
or are you sorta just out here on your own like, "Hey, would you guys hurry up and, like, come talk to me or something?"
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people doing lots of different things on the subject of airway. To my knowledge, and I can't say this for certain, but I don't think anybody's doing it quite the same as we are. I mean, we're dedicating an entire facility to jaw and airway development using these orthopedic and myofunctional appliances. From what I'm told by the manufacturers and suppliers and other people in similar yet different industries is there's no one doing it like we're doing it, and I think that's partially why we're so successful too. We figured out an exact system and an exact program, training program, to put these kids on based on what their needs are, to reverse these symptoms that they're having and get good growth and development all the way around. So I don't think anyone's doing it exactly how we are. While some people might be aware, and there are myofunctional therapists out there who are doing myofunctional treatments, and there are breathing gurus out there too that are doing those things. Most of them are not focusing on the age group that we're focusing on, and they're not doing it. They're definitely not doing it using the programs that we're using that I designed.
Man, this is absolutely incredible, or and also sad. It's why
Yeah.
why aren't people focusing? I didn't even know this was a like I didn't know this was a thing, like I said, until you reached out, and then I started
Mhm.
researching things, and I was like, okay, what is this? I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. Okay, this is you're right. Nobody's talking about this in regards to kids because everybody that it literally pops through my head, all the breathing devices, all the things are meant for adults. And
Mhm.
it's like in listening to you talk, it's not that it's too late because it's never too late, but it's you're not able to get the full aspect of it because you can't change everything like you can with a young kid. And now I'm thinking about all the kids that take our classes and all these man, this is so how does so you're on the East Coast, Pennsylvania,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Right outside of Pittsburgh. Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, that made Corey really happy." That Corey's over here like,
Is he a
yeah,
Steelers fan?
no, he's an Eagles fan.
Oh,
He's a he's strange. He is strange. Harrisburg, he said? Born and ra
oh,
born
born and raised in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's not far from here.
um, so then if and we're in the Midwest, like, I'm
Mhm.
located in the Midwest. I'm in Wisconsin. So, how how does it work? Let's say some people are listening and they want their kids to do this, and how does that work?
Mhm. Yeah, we have clients all over the country, all the way over to California. Currently, we even have a client in Thailand. They started here and moved to Thailand, so I guess we're international, I could say. Um, we work with virtual appointments. We can ship the appliances once they're prescribed, and all of our programs are run the same exact way, but just by video. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and then when you so if so let's say I wanted a device. Let's say I'm
Mhm,
like, "Okay," I talked to my son, um, and I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna do this together, kid.
mhm.
Let's do this together." And so, if we wanted to do that, in order to get a device shipped, there is a program, and we talk to you the whole time while we're at doing the exercises, or how does that work?
Yeah, for the initial part of the program, you would receive the appliance. You
Mhm.
would start the exercise process. We would supervise you during the exercises to make sure that you're doing them properly. Being that you have an exercise background, I don't think it would take long for you to pick this up.
Mhm.
But we'd make sure we do some measurements and some recordings, for example, of how long you could do the plank, the tongue plank, or the lip planks. We do some measurements. We do some breathing measurements as well, breathing function tests, and then we let you take some time, get through the exercises. We connect again, and we remeasure again, and we make sure you're doing the exercises properly and that you're sticking to the schedule, sticking to the routine. And from there, we say, should we up this or up that, or should we pull back on this and maybe add more of that based on what symptoms you're looking, to improve, or if you're just looking to improve overall breathing function and muscle tone, we consider that too.
Man, this is I'm already I'm already getting competitive with it. Like, I'm like, "Oh, man, if I can only do a tongue plank for this long, that means in 2 months I gotta be here." I'm like, "It's already, sorry, that's where my head goes.
Yeah, no, I understand. Wait till you start doing it because I do my exercises and I can tell when I'm slacking. The
Mm,
tongue gets tired. It gets really tired, uh, and you can feel it, just like you would any other muscle of the body. Um, yeah, and so do the lips and everything else
mm.
too. So yeah, it's good stuff. And I could see you probably competing with your son. We do have some of that going on in the center as
Oh,
well.
for sure. We're both competitive. We like, yeah, this is but I know for him, like, I'm just a coach now, and my days of getting back in the ring or doing anything like that are done, but he's got a long future of sports in front of him, hopefully. So, yeah, this could be beneficial and help in a lot of ways. So, where where can people find you on social media?
Mhm. On social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, probably whatever else is out there as well. My company does a good job with that because we're trying to spread the word. We're trying to
Mhm,
increase awareness. One of the best ways to learn more about what we do as well is go to myoacenters.com.
mhm.
On that website, we have a if a parent is concerned or wondering if their child is at risk for sleep related breathing disorders, jaw and airway development issues, there's a 10-question survey there. A quick little quiz that they can fill out. It takes less than a minute, and they'll instantly get an answer as to what level risk their child is at. And then
Mm,
from there, it tells them the recommendation if they should be concerned enough to make an evaluation appointment. And all of our evaluations are free. We don't charge for any evaluation.
so there's no reason not to do it.
There's no reason not to do it.
Man, you just cut out all the excuses right there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have the evaluation. 9 out of 10 children show some sort of issue, so there's something that can be done if there is
Yeah,
a problem brewing, and it's better to do it sooner than later. And the risk assessment quiz, it helps to gain understanding. It also has the things that not all the things, but the top 10 things that are the warning signs to be looking for as well.
man. So I only have one more question for you, and it's a question that I asked all my guests, and you sort of, excuse me, you sort of talked about it already. So I'm gonna see if you can give me a um, different situation for this. So the podcast is called "You Control You," and it comes from where there were different moments in my life where I had to really take control of my. I talk about my own car. I had to drive my car because that other side of me was not doing a good job driving, and it was reacting to so many different things, and it was not taking me in the best places in life. And so once I took control of that wheel, all of a sudden I didn't have to change who I was, but I got to make different decisions that were for the betterment of me. What was that? Where would you say that time was for you where you really had to take control of your own life and your you control you moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's um, several moments in my life that
Mhm,
that has occurred. I would say, before I went to dental school, I had to kind of take charge and take control. Um, I'm very nerdy by nature, and I love science, but I also love art, and so I could go either way. I could, be a flower child, or I could be, a lab rat, you know? I'm very flexible and I'm very adaptable, which I guess is really good, but I had to make a decision, what was gonna be best for me and my future and my career, and so I kinda had to let go of, like, sort of that art side of me, but that's why I went into dentistry because I could combine science and art, you
mhm,
know? And so I really like that. So I think that was one time. I've had several moments along my path where, you had mentioned, like God's shouting at me and telling me something. And I'm like, yeah, 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 I got it. Or, oh, I'm going to go against it. And I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to go against the grain. I'll never forget a big change for me was when I was in my kitchen and I was looking out my back screen door and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, maybe I'm not supposed to fight against everything. Maybe
mm,
I'm supposed to, go with the flow. Maybe I don't know everything and maybe I what I think is best isn't what's best and maybe I just need to listen better and take better direction.
mm.
And, that was a moment for me as well. Yeah. And I think that's an important message. I think there's lots of messages that we probably miss all day, every day, throughout the day. Um, getting stuck in traffic and getting angry about it, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe that's where you're supposed to be so you don't end up in an accident, down the road. And it's a process, it's a learning process for sure, but, I look at it and you're very fortunate, you got through it,
Mhm,
and, you were able to make that process work for you.
mhm,
These little kids that, aren't starting off on the right foot and they have these breathing issues and, that part of the brain's gonna take over and who knows where that's gonna lead them, what dark path,
mhm.
and they might not ever get out of it, and so, I don't want little kids to grow up that way, they don't have to. So, why should we not step in?
No, I concur with that completely, and it sounds like, it it almost sounds like how we describe the ego death. You just sorta get out of your own way and, just I don't know, just everything you just said is stuff that we've talked about a million times on this podcast. It's being grateful for traffic 'cause we could have been in a car wreck at the start of the traffic, like trying to get to where we had to get to. Learning to be patient, learning to just live life and be present more than anything else. And that's that's essentially what it sounds like you're really trying to give these kids and these young adults. I thank you for saying that I was able to get out of it. It's a fight for me. It's a fight every day. It's I tell people all the time. I'm like, I'm only able to give you some advice or say these words because I've done a lot of dumb things in my life, and it like you mess up so many times, you get wiser, hopefully. And but I tell people I fight these demons all the time, and so um, one of the exercises that I do is breathing exercises and saying what I'm grateful for. My nose is a little stuffy right now, so I can't get the breath I want, but it's learning how to breathe and deal with that. So the fact that you're giving this to kids and trying to change the world is like amazing, and thank you for everything that you do. This is absolutely amazing, and I hope that we can help you just reach more people. And I there's times I'm thinking like, man, who can I connect her with? Like who would this be great for? Because it's when I think of for us, for me and Corey, we do a lot of mentor work with um kids, and especially uh um kids of color. And I'm thinking like they're already dealing with so much stuff. It's like, can we help them in this way? Can we help them breathe better so they can
Mhm.
get a good night's sleep with and process some of the things that are going on in their life even more. So just thank you so much. Thank you for being such a blessing and being willing to uh ch- change your own career path to really focus on helping people.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for going the direction, that you've decided to go. Everybody has choices,
Mm,
and you can use those situations, to victimize yourself, or you can use those situations to empower yourself, and you chose to empower yourself, and through that, you're empowering other people, and, it's brilliant, and that's a blessing, as well.
thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Hey, Corey, did you have any questions? Anything you wanted to add in, the man behind the scenes? Oh, he said he's got to hit that website because we're Corey's got 2 boys too, so it's like, yeah, it's crazy. But again, thank you so much, and everybody, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Make sure you go check out um, Dr. Leslie, and I don't. Can you say the name one more time? The
Yep,
website.
My OA Centers for Kids
My
.com.
Kids. I
Yep,
always worry that I'm gonna say something wrong. My Way Center for Kids.
yep.
Um, so make sure y'all go check that out, man. I appreciate y'all so much. You control you. We out.